Insulation of buildings is nowadays the most frequent solution to saving heat energy, both in residential houses and in industrial or administrative centres. By reducing heat losses, there's therefore a lower requirement of heat input and thus a saving in heating costs. Furthermore, the use of overcladding not only gives the whole structure a new appearance, but also an extended service life. The whole structure is thus upgraded. For the insulation system to fulfill its function, special aluminium and PVC profiles, anchor components, and reinforcing glass fibre mesh are needed. All these components play an important part in the system, and besides helping to overcome various obstacles and complex details, the profiles also play an aesthetic role. The use of these components not only makes your work easier, but also more effective. Our core activities consist of the manufacture and sale of profiles intended for thermal protection systems for buildings. Since 1994, we focused on the development and manufacture of profiles for external thermal insulation contact systems, designated ETICS. With a production output of millions of meters of strips monthly, we've become the biggest manufacturer of such profiles in this country. We not only supply the Czech market, but also export our products to 20 other European countries. We apply the most progressive technologies in manufacturing. All profiles are made of high-quality aluminium alloy or of alkali-proof plastic. The whole product range, both for the insulation systems and for dry construction, meet the very rigorous criteria of the modern building industry and have been certified by the State Testing Laboratory. The complete production process is subject to strict inspections and testing to conform with the ISO 9001-2001 quality management system. The products also meet requirements of EU technical norms. Thanks to their high quality, our products have become an integral part of a high number of certified insulation systems used by renowned home and European suppliers. Let us take this family house for example, to show how our profiles should be used correctly in the whole insulation system. You can also see how these profiles will ease your work. At first, we will inspect the structure with the aid of photos taken by a thermal camera. These images will reveal all drawbacks of the external structure and show all heat leaks and emissions from the house. Finally, we can compare the first thermal camera photos with those made after the external insulation is completed. The base profile LO, also designated as the plinth profile, is used to create a level starting point for laying the insulation material. The corner base profile is made by scoring a 90-degree angle in the middle, snapping off the scored part, and then bending the profile into a right angle. The base profiles are anchored to the wall by hammer-driven anchors spaced from 30 to 50 centimeters apart. The profiles are interconnected by means of special connection units. To prevent profile deformation due to rough brickwork, special spaces of different thicknesses are used for assembly. The base profile closes the system and at the same time serves as protection from mechanical damage. The drip ledge at the end of the profile guarantees safe drain off of rainwater from the system, thus preventing capillary action under the insulating material. To create a solid connection of the base profile with the insulating material and perfect water drain off from the system, a PVC drip ledge with mesh is used. The profile is clamped onto the aluminium base profile, and after inserting the insulation material, the mesh is troweled over. In this way we obtain a firm connection between the base profile and the insulating material, completely eliminating the possibility of any cracks. The larger profile of the plastic drip ledge increases its efficiency when draining water out of the system. Where the aluminium base profile cannot be used for system installation and water drain off, for example on a plinth with differing insulation material thicknesses, or in the case of passive houses, a plastic LT profile with invisible drip ledge is used. This profile is inserted into the pre-laid bonding agent and troweled over afterwards. The invisible drip ledge guarantees that the water will drain out of the system. The profile not only trims the system aesthetically, but at the same time also protects it from mechanical damage. When the base profiles are fixed, we can start bonding the insulation material, polystyrene in this particular case. This operation is preceded by impregnating the surface to which the insulation will be applied with a suitable agent recommended by the sealing compound manufacturer. In order for the insulation to be laid and bonded correctly, the corner insulation panels have to be cut to the appropriate lengths. The sealing compound has to be applied to the insulation material, not just to the surface to which it will be fixed, and definitely not to the contact sides. The same rule also applies for corner insulation. The polystyrene is bonded onto the brickwork with the sealing compound applied to the edges of the material and in 2 or 3 dabs. Such gluing eliminates thermal bridges between the insulation panels and prevents movement when anchoring. The polystyrene is then levelled off using a spirit level. When bonding the insulation around windows or doors, the insulation material may not overlap the jamb edges. The corner of the aperture must be cut from a single insulation board. 2 panels should never be used for a corner. The amount of overlap is determined by the frame width. Any unevenness of the glued insulation material is removed by sanding down. Possible gaps less than 1 cm between individual panels are filled with foam. Larger gaps have to be filled with inserted polystyrene strips. Finally, we glue pre-cut polystyrene strips onto the jamb to meet up with the insulated area. When insulating the windows, adequate free space must be left at the bottom of the jamb for later windowsill seating. To achieve a solid and at the same time expandable connection between the window frame and the plaster, a trimming profile has to be used. In our case, we will mount Catnik type profiles. Remove the protective sheet from the window frame and clear the window of any glue or grease. Cut the profile to the requested length, remove the covering sheeting from the expansion strip and glue it onto the window frame. This type is suitable for narrower frames or door frames and is bonded only after the jamb is insulated. The protective plate adheres to the frame perfectly, thus protecting the expansion strip from weather conditions and from dirt collecting there. The mesh on the trimming profile has the necessary 10 cm overlap for system reinforcement. If the mesh overlap on the corner profile is chosen correctly, the glass fibre mesh strip on the jamb will not be needed. This type is also glued onto the window or door frame only after the insulation material has been fixed onto the jamb. Remove the covering sheet of the expansion strip and glue it close to the polystyrene. This is suitable for narrower frames. The double reinforcement layer at the place of maximum load is considered to be its main strength. It is also suitable for coloured frames because plaster is trimmed only close to the bottom profile edge and the whole profile will thus be covered. Unlike with the preceding trim profiles, this type is glued onto the window or door frame before the insulation material is glued onto the surround. According to the thickness of the polystyrene, it is necessary to measure the place where the panel will be glued to the frame. Once again, the covering is removed from the foam expansion strip and the profile glued onto the frame. Only then can the carefully pre-cut polystyrene strip be glued onto the surround. This window trim profile is suitable for wider window or door frames. It is also suitable for coloured frames. These trim profiles also play a protective role. They prevent the window or door frame from scratching, and the plastic sheet glued onto the plates protects the window from pollution. Investment in window protection is materially lower than possible replacement of the damaged window glazing or frame in the worst cases. Butt or mitre joints cut at an angle of 45 degrees are applied at the corners of all window trim profile types. We do not recommend connecting vertical window trim profiles to prevent humidity getting under the insulation material. This is why trim profiles are produced in a variety of lengths. By using these, we can not only achieve a solid and at the same time expandable connection between the window frame and the plaster, but also prevent the occurrence of hairline cracks and separation of the plaster from the window or door frame. Last but not least is the aesthetic contribution this insulation makes. Corner or combined profiles made of aluminium or plastic are necessary for reinforcing corners, edges, window and door jambs in the contact insulation system. They also prevent the creation of hairline cracks. The profiles are inserted into the pre-laid sealing compound and then troweled in. A 10 cm mesh overlap must be maintained in all cases. LK profiles intended for door and window surrounds are therefore manufactured not only with the standard 10 cm overlap, but also with mesh overlaps of 15, 23 and 30 cm. The plastic window profile LT with its invisible drip ledge is manufactured for the protection of corners where vertical and water drainage must also be provided. After laying the sealing compound and the plaster, the plastic drip ledge will no longer be visible. Use of the plastic window profile VLT with the visible drip ledge is another possible alternative. These profiles are very important in the contact insulation system because they prevent capillary action on the top window lining, thus preventing plaster pop-out during the winter period. To prevent the occurrence of hairline cracks in places with heavy wear, for example external window corners, these places have to be reinforced diagonally using a mesh of a minimum of 20 by 30 cm in size. Internal corners are reinforced by inserting a fiberglass mesh strip of the same width as the door or window surround. It is advisable to shape the mesh to the right angle in advance. Seating and connection of the sill to the window frame and to the plaster can be a great problem with any insulation system. The differing thermal expansion of the materials used results in cracking and in plaster separation from the sill. This issue can be resolved by applying the sill profile LPE. Cut a groove in the polystyrene according to the height of the self-adhesive expansion strip and profile width, and spread the sealing compound. Also apply the sealant under the bottom jam edge on the vertical surface. Insert the LPE sill profile into the prepared bed and trowel it in afterwards. Diagonal reinforcement of the external corners goes without saying. When the sealant is set, remove the protective sheet from the self-adhesive expansion strip. Now insert the windowsill into the hole, push towards the window frame and glue it to the LPE profile by pressing on it. Application of the sill profile LPE in the contact insulation system guarantees a permanent, solid and at the same time expandable connection between the windowsill, frame and plaster. This connection is resistant to climatic conditions and prevents cold transmission. Additional joint sealing can also be eliminated. The LK box is used for reinforcing corners, edges, window and door surrounds in the contact insulation system. Its flexible angle and 25-meter long roll are its great advantage. The length of the profile reduces the risk of a bad connection and resultant failure of the insulation system due to flaws in fitting. Prior to inserting the profile into the sealant, it has to be bent to the required angle to prevent it popping out of the troweled sealant. The expansion profiles enable individual surfaces of the contact insulation system to be connected, for example, a house with a garage. The expansion joint is protected from weathering. These expansion profiles are divided into continuous and corner ones. The expansion profile is inserted into the pre-laid sealant and then troweled in. Expansion profiles with a visible or invisible edge, that is hidden under plaster, can be used. The design of the Katnik plastic expansion profile, with its co-extrusion, facilitates both continuous and corner expansion. The expansion joint is protected from weathering by a softened PVC cover plate. Disc anchors with plastic or metal pins are intended for anchoring the insulation material onto solid and hollow materials. Depending on the type of anchors used, a shaped friction or material joint is created. Disc anchors with a plastic pin are intended for polystyrene anchoring into solid building materials. Disc anchors with a metal pin serve for mineral wool anchoring into solid materials or even into hollow building materials, with an extended anchor depth, that is. The metal pins are provided with a plastic head coating to minimise the occurrence of a thermal bridge. A plastic milling cutter and polystyrene plugs are used for anchoring with the countersunk heads. In addition, a disc with a diameter of 140mm is used for anchoring mineral wool with perpendicular fibre. High quality and functional anchoring of the insulating material can only be achieved provided that a suitable anchor type of correct length is chosen. The STRU disc anchor with screw-in metal pin and countersunk head. This anchor belongs to the Aegitherm group and carries the European technical approval ETA. Without using hammered impact, we drill a deep enough hole, avoiding damage to the tubes in the block. Insert the anchor into the hole and using a special tool, STR tool for flush mounting, screw the anchor in and at the same time embed it about 2 cm under the insulating material surface. The quality of joint can be seen immediately, because in the case of bad anchoring, the polystyrene would push the anchor out. Cover the anchor with a blinder. The polystyrene plug need not be troweled, because it fits perfectly with the insulating material surface. The NTKU disc anchor with telescopic head and plastic pin. This also belongs to the Aegitherm group and carries the European technical approval ETA. For quick mounting, the spacing pins are pre-mounted in the anchors. Insert the anchor into the pre-drilled hole and hammer in. Thanks to the telescopic effect of the anchor, disc flushing is clearly defined. The disc has to be troweled in. The anchor's IDK or TID, in combination with the use of plastic milling cutter and polystyrene plug, are another variety of anchoring with a countersunk head. Drill the hole and then mill the orifice in the polystyrene to allow for holder of a disc of certain diameter and milling cutter depth. Insert the anchor, hammer it in and apply the blinder. The polystyrene plug need not be troweled in. If the insulating material is fixed into woodwork, the SBH T-insulation holder is used for mounting. After screwing in the holder, the screw head is simply covered over with a plastic blinder, eliminating the possibility of thermal bridge occurring. If plaster is not chosen as the surface finish for the insulation system, but lining strips or decorative material, such as ceramics or earthenware, putting weight on the system, the insulation material has to be anchored in another way. Anchoring is done only after the insulation system is reinforced with the fiberglass mesh. In this case, Vertex R267. Screw the anchors after moderate sealant setting. In this case, the anchors are used in combination with a small polystyrene plug. The anchor discs must be troweled in. The amount of anchors required is always stated by the manufacturer. It is valid that in general, 6 to 8 anchors are needed per square metre. The insulation material is anchored nearly exclusively at the T-joints and by 1 or 2 anchors on the material area, always at the point where sealant has been applied, thus preventing undesirable material deflection. After the insulation material is anchored, the whole system has to be linked together, that is, reinforced. Use of the fiberglass mesh Vertex, produced by the renowned manufacturer Saint-Gobain, is recommended for this purpose. The meshes numbered R117, R120 and R131 are intended for insulation systems. The mesh is always inserted vertically into the pre-laid sealant. The fixed mesh is troweled in a herringbone pattern, always from the centre out towards the edges. In this way, undesirable mesh corrugation can be prevented. The minimum 10 cm overlap must always be observed when connecting the mesh pieces. The overall troweling results in a perfect bond and link, making the contact insulation system unified where no cracks may appear. After the sealant is set, the troweled area has to be sanded down. Prior to applying the plaster, the whole surface must be impregnated with a suitable impregnating agent recommended by the plaster manufacturer. The plaster is applied and its final surface finish prepared according to the manufacturer's instructions. Plastic spiral anchor can be used for fixing lighter things into the insulation material. For example, house numbers, or letterbox, or lighting fitting. Pre-drill the hole and screw in the anchor. These anchors can hold a weight of up to 5 kilograms. These anchors can be used for insulation material over 60 millimeters thick. Once the final surface finish is completed, that is the house coating, the protective sheets can be removed by cutting away the plates of the trim profiles. Also remove the plastic covering from the windowsills. We can be pleased not only with the cleanliness of the windows and unscratched frames, but also with the attractive appearance and efficiency of the insulation system. The quality of completed work can be verified from the photos taken with the thermo camera. It is quite clear that the end result of the insulating process is highly satisfactory. Let's look at a few photos of what can happen, and it can be clearly seen how non-adherence to the rules or bad choice of accessories can lead to partial or complete devaluation of the insulation system. The quality of the end result relies heavily on a suitable choice of certified insulating system and a professional company that specialises in this kind of work. As long as the manufacturer's technological procedures and recommendations, both for the insulation system and accessories, are closely observed, the completed work should be assured of a long and fully functional service life. Failure to keep to the recommended technological procedures will result in impaired function of the insulation system. The cost of repairs is usually high, because it's not so easy to eliminate any localized flaws or defects that may occur.